Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Let me see if I can see the chat here. Hello, welcome to another Wikidata Lab. We had one last month, and this month we have another one. So it's going back to the origins of Wikidata Lab, where we had one each month. Welcome back. Today we will be talking about a tool that we have been developing for over a year now that is called Wiki Infographics. And today I have with me Artur. Artur, say hi to everyone, introduce yourself.
Hi to everyone. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, or good morning, or night, whatever time zone you are, or whenever you are watching this after. So yeah, let's show to you how Wiki Infographics was developed, how it works, and why it's cool.
Great. So first of all, let me start saying that this is an event organized by Wikimedia Brasil and adheres to the friendly space policy. Here's the link for it. So everyone be respectful in the chat and um, follow the friendly space policy. All right. So who are we? So Arthur said the premise of today's session, but this is a part of introductions. If you don't know me, my name is Eder Porto. I'm Products and Technology Manager at Wikimedia Brazil. And here I have Arthur Correia Souza, who is a project assistant at Wikimedia Brazil. So we have been presenting a few Wikidata Labs this year. I think this is our third together, Arthur, this year only. Yeah,
Yes.
we'll talk about more Wikidata Labs in the future as well. So today's topic is Wiki Infographics, a tool that we have been developing, as I said, for over a year now. And it's part of Wikimedia Brasil's plan of activities for the year of 2024. It was one of the main deliverables. We divide our plan of activities into sections. The one of these sections is called main deliverables that are high projects that we have with our activities that we have throughout the year that we develop with different managers in Wikimedia Brazil. So this topic, the Wiki Infographics, it was on the scope of the products and technology manager, my position in Wikimedia Brazil last year, so 2024. And it is a tool that was thought to be to develop a tool that uses structured data to create visually engaging infographics. That was one of the metrics that we had since 2023 until this year, at least. The engagement of people watching, how many people do we reach in the social media. And so this is one, this is was and is a metric that we follow. And one topic that was a high topic in 2023, and I think in the pandemic, since the beginning of the pandemic, it was these bar race videos that we saw in the internet, and it had a lot of traction for people engaging with that. And the community, the Wikimedia Brazil community, thought that to be an interesting path to engage, especially the new public, so the new audience of young people that access and are on the internet. So they could consume Wikimedia knowledge throughout these videos as well. So, as is mentioned, this initiative aims to leverage structured information within Wikimedia projects to create informative and visually engaging infographics. These infographics usually have high engagement in social media and community platforms. Here, we are talking about Wikimedia projects and structured information, and what comes to mind is Wikidata. That's why we are in um, a Wikidata lab. But the thought behind this tool, it was not only to be from Wikidata queries, for example, but to be information about the Wikimedia projects, such as visualization of medias, visualization of articles on Wikipedia, for example, and any information that can be ranked throughout time. So, as I mentioned, it was a project from last year's plan of activities. And the first part that we made was to establish, as we have been doing for some years now, an outreach partnership to an outreach project uh, to develop this tool. So in 2024, we started a project called with Outreachy that was to develop the Wiki Infographics. We had an intern. His name is James O'Coley. And together, me and Lucas Bello, that was the previous assistant in Arthur's position, we developed the first version of the tool throughout the round 28 of the outreaching. And with the main part of that project, that outreach project, it was to uh, one third of the project was to develop the technical plan. And that technical plan, um, that is in the next slide. Yes. So the technical plan that we developed for Wiki Infographics, it was one of the first. It's not the first, but one of the initial plan of activities, not plan of activities, technical plans that we developed within Wikimedia Brasil, consolidating the practice that we have, that we had, and we haven't still today, of developing tools for the Wikimedia movement. So these include principles of accessibility, uh, to be responsive in different devices, desktop, mobile, tablets, and to be not in too much internet consuming, so low bandwidth. So different regions, different people around the global south, and especially Brazil, can interact with these tools that we developed and have been developing for many years now. So we wrote the technical plan for the tool with the delineation of the scope, the technical stack, the design for the tool, how it would work, the risk plan for if this goes wrong, how can we fix it? And the plan for deployment, among other parts that are necessary for a tool to live in the Wikimedia movement. And we developed that within one third, half the project with James on the outreaching. And we faced, let me see, yeah, so we faced several difficulties on the deployment phase. If you are a technical contributor in the Wikimedia movement, if you have a ToolForge tool, you perhaps has encountered a few tutorials on how to do your first tool. there. So we have my first Flask tool on my first OAuth Flask tool on I think if not MediaWiki, the Wikitech um, tutorial, and you have my first OAuth Django tool, and you have different kinds of tools that you have tutorials, but we don't have one for React, and that's a shame on us that we don't have the necessary support for React tools tutorials on Wiki. So we drafted the first prototype of the tool in 2024 by the end of James' internship in outreaching in August, I think. August, yeah, around August of 2024. And the deployment took way more than the outreach internship. We had contacted many users, many forums on Wiki, on Telegram, for example, to help us deploy this tool. And we weren't successful to deploy the React deployment on ToolForge. This is not something that we didn't have the capacity to do so, or we didn't contact the right people. I know for a fact that at least another project that was being developed on Outreach at that time couldn't get the deployment right on ToolForge. And that project was from a Wikimedia Foundation employee. So we don't have the capacity. If they don't have the capacity, we didn't either. And that was a general problem with React deployment on ToolForge. I think it still is. So the backend was Flask because we didn't need heavy database interaction. So we just did a Flask backend to manage a few features that we were imagining for this tool. Then in 2025, we got Artur from the Quick Statements project that he was developing at the time with Miguel Galvez. The Quick Statements 3.0 project ended by the end of 2024, and we onboarded Artur into our team in Wikimedia Brasil. And by the beginning of 2025, Artur started refactoring and made the improvements on the tool. And the main task I passed it to Artur was make it deployable. So deploy this tool because the tool worked in our local environment, but we couldn't get the deployment on ToolForge to work. So one thing that Artur did to refactor the tool, it was to do a merge between the backend and the front end repositories into the same one, and implementing the tests and the deployment and easing the deployment on ToolForge. We had several bugs in this initial testing, and they were solved. And the new features and the adjustments that we needed in order to the tool to work were implemented by that time. The backend was refactored in Django. That is something that Artur had experience, and then we changed the features that would require a heavy database interaction. So we changed the stack a little bit. And I think I can pass to you, Artur, so you can talk about the new features and the old features that people didn't get to see because of the deployment. Only a few community members knew about the tool and tested the tool and saw that how it interacted, how it worked, because of the deployment issue. And I'll pass you.
Yes. Okay, thank you, Heather. So, hello, everyone. So yes, in the start of this year, I started refactoring the tool, the backend in Django, to unify the both backend and frontend in the same repository, which made it a lot easier for deployment. And the front end was is now working, and you can already access the tool. And alongside that, there are some new features implemented. So one important thing was light dark mode switch, so you can switch between light mode and dark mode, and also translations with Translate Wiki, which we also did in Quick Statements 3.0. So you can go to this community project called Translate Wiki, and it's very easy to do translations there. So already Wiki Infographics is translated on more than 10 languages. So it's very nice to have it have a project integrated with Translate Wiki. And another big feature that was implemented in this refactoring was video download for bar chart races, which was a little bit hard to do, especially considering the Toolforge environment, because to have the utilities to generate videos and compile SVGs to images, we needed to refactor again the deployment. So the deployment was refactored 2 times this year. And for the second time, we started using Toolforge's custom build images. So using a custom build, we were able to have FFmpeg available for us to use. For those that don't know, FFmpeg is basically a CLI tool / library, open source, and it's very, very famous, and it's very highly used to do videos stuff on Linux. So, but yeah, there's the whole app itself being launched as well. And let's go see how to use Wiki Infographics. So right now, our only data source is Wikidata Query Service. As Eder said, we want to expand to include structured data from Wikipedias, for example. But right now, only Wikidata Query Service is available. So the hardest part is getting a query. That's the hardest part of using Wiki Infographics. If we have a query, you just put it there. And all queries can run on Wiki Infographics. You can put any Wikidata query service there and it will run. But some visualizations are only available to certain types of queries that adhere to a certain format. So we have two visualizations available. The table one, which accepts all queries, which is basically showing the query results to you in a table format. And the bar chart race, which is very cool, but it needs a specific format. So the format that you need to have in your query is 4 columns of the item, the label. They don't need to have this name, item, and label. It can be any name, but it needs to be the Wikidata item, the label, which will be on the bar, a numeric value, which is the bar value, the bar size, and the date in which the value is valid. So if you have that, you can have a bar chart race. And optionally, let me see if I can do like this though. Let me see how. Oh, like this. You can have an optional category / group column between the second and the third. So you have an item label, and then a category or group label, which will make all the items for the same group to have the same color on the bar chart race. So that's the hardest part of using the tool, which is making your query adhere to this format. And once it has this format, the bar chart race will be available for you to use. So let's see an example, and let's go to Wiki Infographics to see it working. So let's start going to where we can access Wiki Infographics. So you can access Wiki Infographics at infographics.24.org. That's the website. And once you go there, you just need to put a query and run. You don't need to do a login to use Wiki Infographics. So let's start with our first query to show, which is the population obtained through census for Brazilian state capitals. So that's our query, and I will walk you through how that query works, and let's see it running on Wiki Infographics. So let me start by copying this query, and then I will share my screen to you. Share screen. Okay, add to stage. No, remove other medias. Remove, add to stage. Yay, okay. So this is our first query, which is this one, Brazilian population of Brazilian capitals. And let's see how it works. So what is this query doing? At first, we start with the Brazilian state, which is an instance of let's see if it works here. Federative unit of Brazil. So we start with the federative units, basically the states of Brazil. So we start with that, and then we also make it so that it has a capital of our item. So our item is defined as the value of the capital statement for Brazilian federative unit. So that's how we obtain the Brazilian capitals. That's our first line of the query. So the second query, the item here is the Brazilian capital. So we start by getting the population statement. From the population statement, we want to obtain not only the value, but two qualifiers. And for that, it's easier for us to access the entire statement node, which groups all this information, instead of directly accessing the value. So usually what you would normally do to access the population is put the item and use WDT and then the property for population. And then you would have right here the value itself directly after the population accessed by this prefix WDT. So that's, but with this format, you don't have access to the qualifiers, which we need. So we won't do in this format. We will access the population, the statement node with P prefix. So the P prefix, and then we assign the statement to a variable. In this case, called population underline node. It can be any variable name that you want. And from this variable, which is the whole statement, not only the statement value, the whole statement, we can access the value and any qualifiers that we need. So we will start by getting the value. So we put here our statement node variable, population node, and use PS prefix with the same property ID, and then we can access the value. So right here, this is how we go from the item to the statement value. But since we have the variable for the whole statement, the node, we can access the qualifiers as well. To access the qualifiers, use the PQ prefix. So using the PQ, we access the point in time qualifier, which is the date in which the population value is valid. For example, oh, this city has a population of 1 million inhabitants in 2015. So that's the date, the point in time in which this value is valid. And the second qualifier that we need is the determination method or standard. So this qualifier is very important when you are dealing with populations, because populations can be calculated by census or by estimates, for example. In this case, we only on the census population. So that's why I put the census item right here. So census, which is the method to which the values that we want to be obtained. So that's our query. And you can see that the format, the variables that are being returned from this query is the item label, which will be the city label, the population value, and the date. So these are our 4 columns, and the variable names doesn't matter. So it doesn't need to be date here. It can be point in time. It can be any variable name for you to use on Wiki Infographics. But the last column needs to be the date, the 4th column right here. So when we run this query, we can see it here that we have a lot of lines, and each one of those lines tells us a population for a Brazilian capital in a specific point in time. So we can go around and see all these populations in various point in times for the Brazilian capitals. So let's now put this query on Wiki Infographics and see it working to see the bar chart trace. So let's just copy here. I already have it prepared right here. So I already loaded, but let's load it again to show it working. When you open Wiki Infographics, that's what you see. So you have here the navbar with the logo, the light and dark mode switcher, a link for the examples, link for the repository, and to change the language, and with a link to help us translate on Translate Wiki. I can show you that later because you're probably all eager to see the bar chart trace. So let's put the Sparkle query here and then click on play. So now Wiki Infographics is going to Wikidata Query Service and asking for Wikidata Query Service to run this query for us. So now we have to wait for Wikidata Query Service to return the query to Wiki Infographics, and then Wiki Infographics will perform its calculations to generate the bar chart trace. So we have here the table, which is the basic visualization with which we work for all queries, and it's the same as the one from Wikidata Query Service. You can see it right here. And in this table selector here, you can switch to the bar chart trace. When you switch to the bar chart trace, you can put an optional title to your bar chart trace, select the speed units. So in this case, years or months, the speed in units per second. So it will generate a bar chart trace animation of 5 years per second, and you can update the color palette as well. But let's start with the defaults. So we can start here in 1871, which is the start here for this graph. So it's the lowest year on our data. And once we click play, it will play the animation for us. And let's see the Brazilian capital's population evolve. So yeah, so that's the animation. So you can see that São Paulo is gaining traction, and it will soon pass Rio de Janeiro at some point, very soon. And now, and we can see that São Paulo is gaining a lot of inhabitants, almost double of Rio de Janeiro. And we can see the Brazilian capitals updating their ranks alongside the years. So that's the last value that we have. So that's the end. And so that was the animation. You can play it how many times you want. You can also drag the slider to a specific point that you want to see. And you can download the data in a CSV format, which is basically the table one. And for bar chart trace, you can also click here and generate a video of this animation for you to download and share in whatever you want to share, and even upload it to Commons. So you can click here to download this animation as a video as well. So let's see the other things here that we have on Wiki Infographics, the light dark mode switcher up there, and the translation. So you can switch here to, for example, Brazilian Portuguese, and it will update the translations. Let's stay in English. And if you click here on help us translate, you will go to Translate Wiki to help us translate Wiki Infographics in all possible languages that we can. So if you see a language that you can translate that is not here, please help us translate our tool to as many languages as possible. So now let's see another query to see the functionality of grouping. So let's get the second query, which I already prepared here. So that's our second query that I want to show you, which is this one, which is a variation of the first query. So now we are accessing all Brazilian municipalities except the capitals. So now it's Brazilian non-capitals that we're going to be seeing. And we start by using the instance of, actually, let me just put it here on Wikidata query service to get, so an instance of municipality of Brazil. Here is the same logic as before. So getting the population statement, the value, the date qualifier, and the census qualifier, the determination method qualifier. This line removes the capitals, so it removes all municipalities that have a statement of capital of, so it will remove, that's why the minus is here. And then we also need the state, so we want to group those cities by state. So use the located in the administrative territorial entity, P131. And right here on our variables, output variables, we have the state label in the third column. So that's the second possible format. The first one was what we saw. So item, label, value, and date. And now we have item, label, group or category, and value and date again. And we are also filtering this query after 1970 so that we get the best data. And now I already run it here on Wiki Infographics. So we have here the table visualization, which is basically the same as Wikidata query service. And we can go to the bar chart trace and we have the same options. For example, let's put a title now, Brazilian non-capitals, and create bar chart trace. So you can see here the title. And now every city that is on the same state will have the same color. So we can see here, for example, yellow is the Rio de Janeiro state and green is the São Paulo state. So let's see those non-capitals evolve their population over time. So you can see that Nova Iguaçu was first, but is now going down, and Guarulhos and Campinas got the lead. So that was our second example animation. And again, you can download this video, see it in dark mode.
Arthur,
Hello.
maybe change the units so we can see it like
Nice.
slower.
Okay. Let's switch now to months and let's make it 6 months per second. So let's start here. So the month rendering down below is based on your locale. So I am in English, so it will stay in English there. But if you switch to Portuguese, less like I did, it will show the month names in your language. So now, since we are going at six months per second, it's a lot slower than before, but still very nice.
Yeah, maybe year. But my question here is what happened in Nova Iguaçu? So the population went down.
Let's see here. Yes, it started going down here in 1992, and then, yeah, it went really down, almost half. Yes, we even looked at the Portuguese Wikipedia article, but it's not described right. Okay, So let's see our third graph. So this our third example, which is countries by continent, and this is the query, which is a lot more um, a more complex query. So let's see it here on Wikidata Query Service. So you can, since you are using the Wikidata query surface, the sky is your limit. You can have very complex queries like this one, and it will work on Wiki Infographics as long as it has the format that we need. So you can see here that the last variables, the output variables are the continent label, the count, which I will explain in a minute, or the value and our date. So what is this query doing? It's counting the number of countries per continent along the years, along the time, alongside time. So how it works? It starts by getting one country and its continent and its inception, the first inception, because sometimes it has both. So let's put the lowest one, the minimum value. So we use the P571, which is the inception. We get instance of countries, and we get the continent from P30. And then this part, it gets one country, basically. And then it's the same query out here to get a second country. And what is this query doing? It's counting for each date how many countries exist at that point in time, which means from a specific date, we count how many countries exist at that point in time or less. That's why we need two countries right here to perform this cumulative count. So right here, we filter when the second inception date is lower than the first one. So we get all the countries that are earlier or equal to a specific founding year. We also get the label for the continent label. And we get after the year 1700s, and we specific select a few continents to eliminate one or other continent that's maybe it's not a continent, or it has just one country for the whole time span, so maybe it's wrong. So we filter for the big continents here. So Africa, South America, Europe, Asia, North America, Insular Oceania and Oceania. And for those wondering where is Central America, the Central America here is inside North America, basically. So this is our query, and when we run, you can see here in Wikidata Query Service, we have the table visualization here, but let's see it in Wiki Infographics. So it's here, we can run, I already run it, but let's run it again. And it will perform the query on Wikidata Query Service and gets us here the table, and then we can select the bar chart trace. You can select years and months. So let's put here countries by continent. And let's create. So we start in 1708. And let's see it evolve over time. So we start with Asia with 5 countries. And I mean, it would be nice to evaluate this query and see it in depth if all things are making sense. But anyways, it's a fun query because we suddenly have a lot of countries in Europe, and South America is going strong right now. And we are passing 1850. And very soon, Africa will have a boom in the country count. I think it's 1940 maybe. And so we are a little bit steady right now. Europe is rising again. Asia surpassing South America a lot. And now we have the Africa boom of countries. And yeah, so Insular Asia and Europe are very close, and then we end. So I think it's a very fun query. It will be nice to look into it, like which countries are this is 555 countries and the 49 countries, and but it's a very nice query and shows that Wiki Infographics, you can also put more complex queries, and maybe you can use this kind of structure of having two queries that are equal and filtering when the first is less than the second to transform queries that don't seem very time easy to do in a time span to calculate by time span. And I think with this structure you can expand a lot the amount of queries that you can transform into a bar chart race, because in Wikidata, we don't have the specific value number of countries and the point in time for various point in time to do it like the population. But we can transform the inception date into a cumulative count using this query structure and then have a bar chart trace to visualize. So I think it's very nice. I think that's it. Those were the examples that I selected.
Yeah, thank you.
And
Uh,
try it out.
yes, thank you, Artur. I think it's good that we had a few examples of how the tool works, and I want to extend the invitation for people to try it out the tool and give feedback, read the documentation, give feedback on the documentation on the Meta Wiki page. Here's the link um, for it. And I just wanted to gather, to finalize this presentation, uh, a few thoughts for the future. So as I mentioned, the structured data that we are planning to show in this tool, it's not only reserved for Wikidata query service, but also for the structured information that we can get from an API on Wikimedia projects, for example. Visualization, which one example that I hope to see in the future is, for example, the evolution of which article was the most viewed or most accessed in the Portuguese Wikipedia in 2025 and 2026. So we would have in this tool a way of calculating and making that visualization. And here we are working with um, bar race charts. I don't know the proper way to call that, but the idea here in with this tool is to reimagine how can we see information, and with the purpose of engage people into consume the information that Wikimedia projects um, produce or hold. So here we have Wikidata integration already established, and my hope to see in the examples in the near future is a federation query. So we see, for example, how many article are the bar race chart is formulated around the idea of rankings around across time. So we have rankings this year, that year, and so on. Um, but one thing that I would like to see, for example, uh, a query, a video query of this tool is, for example, which journals have the most articles that year in Brazil or in Europe or in any specific country. Um, that would be something to engage people and to see the results. We can do a query and say, "Oh, this is the state of the art now," and we this is a valid query, a valid information. But I think it's good we spend some time as well on the internet, seeing TikTok and short videos. Why not to see, spend some time to see actual information and making inferences on it. I joked around the city of Nova Iguaçu, but it awakened curiosity in me that what happened. What happened in the state of Rio de Janeiro that the people from Nova Iguaçu scattered throughout the state or throughout outside the city in the 90s. So this is something that I already made a question asking historians to weigh their input on this. What happened in Nova Iguaçu? So that might be the query's name also, Arthur. So the video query, what happened in Nova Iguaçu? All right. So this tool is already being launched, relaunched today. It was already out on ToolForge, deployed. Thanks to Artur for that. But we are relaunching today, so you can test the tool, imagine other queries, put the queries on the examples, on the documentation, ask questions, try it out. We do not intend this to be a tool that we release and get over it. Um, every tool that we develop in Wikimedia Brasil, it's now part of a bigger plan of maintaining this tool. So your feedback, especially in this next year and a half, 2 years, would be very precious for us to build something more meaningful with this tool that we launched today. Oh, Jose is saying that he confused Nova Iguaçu with Foz do Iguaçu, but no, it was Rio de Janeiro. I would like to see also a query or bar race chart around the cities, not distinguishing between capitals and non-capitals. So we could see Guarulhos on on top of other cities that are capitals in Brazil, so we can relate to that, or even the lowest cities. So we always look at the top, but what are the less populated cities in Brazil? So this is something that I like to try and see different videos of it around the social media and Wikimedia Commons. So thank you so much, Artur, and everyone around here, people watching in the future. Go there and try it out, the tool. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.